I love for my artist clients to have multiple sources of income when it makes sense. I'm Alyson Stanfield, and this is the Art Biz. I have talked a lot on this show about multiple income sources. The first one was way back in episode 18 when I talked with Helen Hebert about how she has created more reliable income from a variety of sources throughout her career. In other episodes, my guests generously have shared their breakdown of how they make income. Jason Kotecki makes 55% of his income from speaking engagements. Monique Carr has a clean 60% of income from teaching and 40% from originals. Stephanie Brown gets 35 to 40% of her income from grants. And Kelly Pelfrey makes more than 90% of her income from the sales of her original art. There are just so many different ways to be an artist and to make money from your talents. We have to acknowledge that for the vast majority of artists, that it is impractical to rely on the sales of original works of art to pay all the bills. Sales can be seasonal, galleries can shut their doors. I mean, just look what happened to Pace Gallery, the mega gallery, in the last couple weeks. They dropped 50 artists from their stable. I think they cut 250 people from their staff just out of the blue. It was just crazy. If Pace can do it, it could happen to anyone. The economy might tank. A lot of us have lived through that before. But this is why multiple sources of income are so important. So in this episode, I want to talk about income sources and streams, what they might look like, and how to know whether or not you should change up what's in your mix. So let's dive into this with a little nomenclature. Don't tune this out just because I'm going to talk about vocabulary and definitions. It's going to help us think around this topic. To be noted, this is very important. These are my definitions. You're probably not going to find them in a business book, but this is how I like to think of them with my artist clients. Okay, ready? An income source is your category name for let's call it creative asset. This is the source of what someone is paying you for. Think in terms of nouns and how you might enter it into your bookkeeping. Original artwork, reproductions of work, products, licensed artwork, granting agencies, speaking expertise, teaching expertise. Those are all income sources. An income stream is how the money comes into you from the source. And we're going to use a verb for these: selling from your website, hosting an open studio, participating in an arts festival, being represented by a gallery, landing grants, speaking, licensing, teaching in person or online. Now, you can have a single income source, like original art, that sells through multiple income streams, and most artists do. You sell your original art on your website, at open studios, and perhaps through galleries or art festivals. Every artist that I can think of has multiple streams of income, even though they might just have one or two sources of income. Your total income sources might include employment outside of your art, but our focus today is on how you diversify the ways that you make money from your art. We have to hyper focus there because I don't know what other income sources you might have, or income streams, or whatever you want to call those. But anyway, there is a problem with multiple income sources. While we love them, there's a problem. New income streams are fine. New income sources are a little riskier. Too many artists, I've seen this over and over again, are adding income sources from their art because you name it. They saw another artist do it. They got in their inbox a one-time only opportunity, or they want their work to be more affordable to people, so they add products at lower price points, or whatever they've been doing hasn't been working. Diversifying your income sources is so tempting. I get it. You might think more stuff equals more income. More stuff equals more potential buyers. Be careful. Watch it. Some sources make sense together because they're marketed to the same audience. You're probably going to promote products and reproductions to the same audience in the same manner. Other times, they are completely different businesses. They have different audiences, different approaches. Let's just look at licensed artwork, which comes in so many different forms these days. I have never consulted in this area. I have no expertise in this area, and I find the licensing industry even more confusing these days because there's self-licensing, whatever that means, that's my word for it. Then there's licensing agents, there's all these people, but there's an entirely separate audience for licensed art than there is for original fine art. You're working with licensing companies rather than exhibition and sales venues, which means that you approach them differently. You're juggling accounts rather than people and opportunities. This means that you have separate businesses. Two businesses means that you're doing double the work, almost double the work. And the result is multiple business plans, multiple marketing plans, multiple venues and audiences. Each income source has to be attended to. And so my best advice before you go adding a new income source is to do your homework. Understand deeply what is going to be involved before you add another income source. It is a terrible business practice to sell more stuff if you don't know what you're getting into. Too many artists are spending too much time on things that bring in too little return. And obviously, you're not going to know in advance whether something's going to work or not. But you can do your research. You can go in with your eyes wide open. In fact, you must do your research. If you are truly a business person, if you truly care about making a profit. So I want you to read everything that you can about that income source. And I want you to consume whatever information you can. That means watching videos. It might mean listening to podcasts. Heck, it might even be social media posts where you start to get some insight into that income source. So you're going to do that work. And you're going to talk to other artists who have that income source. Don't assume that just because they offer a certain income source means that they're actually selling it. They can have all kinds of income sources on their website. That doesn't mean it's moving at all. So talk to them. Learn the industry standards. Learn the trends. Ask what's changed and what's working now. That's all research that you can do. You owe it to your work to do this kind of research, because anything that takes you away from the work that you do in the studio should be vetted with a vengeance. Because every artist that I know of would much rather be doing the work on the original work in the studio. And all that other stuff, all those other income sources, all the other business management that comes with those income sources takes them away from the studio work. To be clear, new income sources outside of your originals will occupy a good chunk of your mental energy and end up eating away at your time. So you have to ask, is this the right direction for you? All that research is from the outside. You're looking at the outside, what you could glean from finding out about this income source. Now you have to go within and make sure that it's right for you. Ask, is this going to strengthen the business that I want, or turn it into a different business? Take me down a path I don't want to go. Maybe you think it's going to be easy to get some passive income. Think again. Except for old style licensing deals, the ones that I knew about 30 years ago, honestly, I'm not sure those exist. Maybe for a certain level of artists they exist, but there is usually no such thing as passive income for artists. There's no such thing as passive income for me, even though I have a whole bunch of things that you can go to artbizsuccess.com right now and buy all of these workshops and so forth that just are there. But until I market them, they're not going to sell. I have to work for every dollar that I make. You have to work for every dollar that you make. There's really no such thing as passive income. Don't bother going to the trouble of creating a new source of income that you don't have time or energy to invest in. So, some questions to ask yourself in this phase. What's the average amount of time based on your research that you think it's going to take for this to become profitable? Can you wait that long? Are you willing to wait that long? How much effort are you willing to give this? What's it going to take you away from? How much time are you willing to give it every week? How's it going to show up in your marketing mix? If you're going to be marketing this income source, how does that work when you're trying to also sell original work? What's going to take priority in your messaging? And if your priority is always original art, how are you going to make sure people know that? If you want more clarity, even more clarity than those questions might give you, do the math. What is the potential for income from this source compared with your current income sources? Here's what I want you to think about. Wouldn't you rather sell a $1,000 original than 100 sets of note cards for $10 each? Of course you would, because it's about the same amount of work for the sale, and there's a lot less on the back end. Think of all the work that you have to do to sell 100 sets of note cards. You could try marketing them to your list or your followers at a retail price. Then after the sale, you have to process payments, record them in your bookkeeping, pack them, ship them, update your inventory, all that stuff. Subtract the actual cost of the printing and packaging, and then you're probably in the hole if you keep that price at $10 a set. The math is different when you're wholesaling because you only make 50% of that $10. You'd have to have wholesale accounts in numerous places, since it's very unlikely that one gift shop is going to sell 100 of the same set of note cards. That would take a long time for that to happen. And then each wholesale account comes with its own set of tasks. You're keeping up with those accounts, record keeping, and then all the packing, shipping, and bookkeeping that belongs with those. And then at this price and volume, profitability is extremely difficult unless you've built the systems and the scale of a genuine product business. After you do this math, you're going to discover at what point this could be a profitable business, and then decide if you want to go for it. If you are in the note card business, you really have to be in the note card business. And if you're in the art licensing business, you really have to be in the art licensing business. If you are in the sale of original art business, you really have to be in the sale of original art business. Back in episode 257, It wasn't a video, but there is an audio version of that podcast episode. I talked about how I watched artists who'd like to sell more original works really mess up their marketing messages because they were making their products look like they were just as important as their originals were. So if you are interested in selling more originals, I really suggest you go back and listen to episode 257, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, this is for you if you already have multiple income sources. If you already have them, you want to take time to figure out which ones are helping you accomplish your business goals. I'm doing this for my own business right now at Art Biz Success. And some questions that you might want to dig into are: what sources produce repeat customers? Which lead toward another more important income source? Which can you count on for income? Which depend entirely on your care and upkeep? In other words, they're not passive income. Which have the healthiest profit margin? Which give you energy rather than take away your energy, and then which are consuming energy out of proportion to their contribution to your bottom line. As you can see from those questions, your goal might not always be profitability. For example, one of your income sources might be reproductions. You sell a lot of them, and you can see that it's building fans and maybe future collectors for your art. That's a good reason to keep that. Another one of your goals might be fun. You might have the flexibility, perhaps in your current income, to investigate an income source that just sounds like fun. And I'm going to be the first to applaud for you bringing more fun into your art business. I think you should do that at any point, as long as you can afford it and it doesn't take you away from your goals. So I'm okay with that. But you don't have to build the whole business to test the idea for a new income source. Decide what you are testing, how much time and money you're willing to invest, how long the test is going to run, how long you're going to let this go without making a profit, and what result by when would justify continuing with it. The goal is not ever to have more income sources. Let me be very clear on that. More income sources does not make you a better artist. It doesn't make you a more interesting artist. It probably doesn't make you a more profitable artist. The goal is to have the right mix, one that's profitable enough, sustainable enough, and aligned with the work you want to do and the life you want to live. And a word of advice. I'm glad you stuck around for this, because this might be the most important thing that I say here at the end. Before adding something new to sell, look for another way to sell what you already make. In other words, before adding another income source, look for more income streams for that source. Make sure that you're getting the most out of that source before you start dividing up your attention to different sources of income. I am all for artists having more income sources. I think it's important. I want you to make money. I want you to support yourself and your family and have what you need and want in life. Just be aware that you may be juggling separate businesses and they might be taking you away from the work that you really want to be doing. As I said, I'm doing this in my own business at Art Biz Success. Big changes are coming in the near future to Art Biz Success, and I'm really excited to announce those. I am leaning a lot into my small coaching groups, my accelerator, and what might be the decelerator for artists who want to coast. You're at a position where you just want to enjoy your art and work on your legacy, perhaps. So email me if you'd like to know about either of those or my private consulting. I'm at Alyson@artbizsuccess.com. Now, if you want to get the show notes or find out information about this, go to artbizpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening or watching, because this is on video too, so you can catch it on YouTube if you're just listening. I hope you'll subscribe to the podcast or the video on YouTube, and I'll see you next week.